good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
And it's your boy, BJ.
Back in the building.
Back in effect. Back like we never left. And y'all, we are back in the building with another reaction.
Yeah.
And we appreciate y'all for tuning in and supporting the channel. We're going to be tapping in today. This is going to be, I'm sure this is going to be a pretty serious debate between Thomas Sowell and Trevor Noah. It's based on slavery and reparations.
Oh, I've seen Trevor Noah's name before.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a daytime show.
Is it a debate though, or are they just talking about it? Is it a discussion?
Yeah, it's just probably going to be a discussion, possibly a debate. I'm not sure. We're about to check it out. Okay. It just says versus, so I don't know. Okay. I'm sure they're going to have opposing opinions.
Okay. All right, here we go. So the only thing I've seen so far of Thomas Sowell was the one video we did about slavery.
Correct.
And what was it, and it not being taught in school, or what was actually being taught in school about slavery, something like that. So okay, so this is the first time we're getting into Trevor Noah too. So all right, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell. Y'all join the family. And this journey, y'all, this is all about learning, just trying to understand it all. Okay, so
absolutely,
calm down, y'all, calm down. We're trying to understand it and take it in for what it is. Okay, here we go.
So to your question, I think you have to understand what the word reparations means first. So reparations, you are repairing something that you have broken. You are paying for something that you were supposed to pay for. I'm not saying that there aren't people living in America today who are suffering and are going through pain and strife because of what's happening when it comes to, the machines taking jobs, factories becoming industrialized, etc. But reparations is a specific conversation about a specific time in America, and that is black people were slaves.
Article that got a lot of attention in The Atlantic a couple of years ago called The Case for Reparations by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Quote, "White supremacy is a force so fundamental to America that it is difficult to imagine the country without it. Reparations is the price we must pay to see ourselves squarely." Close quote. And Tom Sowell, who actually saw Jim Crow with his own eyes and experienced it, responds how?
It would be nice to know his evidence for what he said, just to be old-fashioned about it. No, it was a rotten system. But I don't know how we get from that to reparations. I mean, what we see in the United States in terms of the bad things, you see all around the world. If you were to give reparations to everyone whose ancestors had been slaves, I suspect that you would have to give reparations to more than half the entire population of the globe.
Whoa. And that's the thing with like Thomas Sowell that I've been kind of seeing is like he hits you with a lot of like facts. A lot of his information is not like opinion based, you know. A lot of it is based on just pure like fact.
Well, if you're basing that on like what he said in the last video, then he would be right.
That could be true.
Yeah.
You could give reparations to
if what he's saying
half
is
the
true.
population, pretty much, you know, around the world.
You would have to give reparations to more than half the entire population of the globe. Slavery was not confined to one set of races. I suspect that most of the people who were either slaves or slave owners around the world were neither white nor black. I mean, this was a universal curse of the human species.
Africa, the Middle East, Asia, slavery took place everywhere.
And it continued elsewhere long after it was abolished in the Western countries.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've even heard people say like, oh, but there were some of the Irish who were indentured. Like, yeah, slavery. Look at the numbers, look at the time, look at the level of work. You could not work toward your freedom. For most black people in America, this was a time when you lived and died as a slave. And so that's what reparations is about.
The other thing, I have a slight sidebar in there on the history of slavery. The history of slavery existed all over the world for thousands of years among all sorts of people, as far back as the history of the human species goes. It's one of many evils that the left tries to localize, when in fact it is a universal evil. But more than that, as much as slavery is repudiated.
You see how you said how the left tried to localize it in regards to just, you know, here being in the United States of America, how they try to like sensational. They do, and even in the media, you know, when certain things go on with maybe a white cop and a black person, something happens, how they sensationalize that.
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing. Them taking something it's touchy as slavery, but like he said, you know, here they take it and they localize it and make it this thing where it make it feels like it only happened here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When it's not, it's
like
more
he says,
than,
it was more of a universal type of thing.
A crisis everywhere. Sure.
Everywhere, yeah.
But more than that, as much as slavery is repudiated around the world today, prior to the 18th century, I know of no serious effort to abolish the institution anywhere.
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 Not in Africa, not in the Arabian
not
world.
in Africa in the 21st century. When Adam Smith wrote in 1776 that the only place in the world where slavery had been abolished completely was Western Europe. And so this was
as late as the year this country was founded.
Yes. And so the idea that this is something that the United States had that nobody else had, or the other countries that didn't have, it's been estimated that there are more slaves in India than in the entire Western Hemisphere.
Wow.
And that's before and after Columbus got here.
Right.
And so I hear what you're saying, but I think that's a completely separate conversation that needs to be had about the now. Because if you are not careful, what you then do is you combine everybody's suffering into the same bowl and you make it seem like all injustices have the same weighting, and they don't. It's just like crimes. You know, theft isn't the same as murder. We don't try them the same way. And as much as there is a white person who's suffering today, I feel for anybody who's suffering, because I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to suffer. I didn't come from a wealthy family. We struggled when I was growing up. But I also understand that there are levels of that suffering. You know, and so sometimes white people, it does block a white person because you go white privilege, and a person goes, I'm poor and I'm white. Where's the privilege? You know, white people are like, I wish I could activate my white privilege. I wish I could do it right now. White privilege, give me something. I get that. I get that. Trust me, I get it. It is hard to accept that you have benefits because of the color of your skin if you cannot see the benefits that you have.
The book that I'm writing now, I discovered this is true not only in the United States, it's true in England. And the situation is wholly different. And yet, if you read the data, for example, from London, the educational tests and so forth, you see that there, immigrants from Africa pass this test they have. I'm talking about low-income people now. Nearly 60% of the time. Blacks from Caribbean, like 50%, so on. Native-born whites in the same low-income bracket pass this test 30% of the time.
I feel like anybody that had like any type of like misconception about like a lot of like slavery and reparations in regards to that, if they listen to a lot of stuff that like Thomas Sowell talks about and how he speaks about it, like they will learn like a whole lot. Because I have a lot of people like around me, like friends, family, people that I've grown around, even like people that I went to school with, and if they had a chance just to hear what he has to say and be able to like to really digest it and be able to hear it, like they have a better view on it. Because I feel like a lot of things that a lot of people were just taught, just kind of just they have their view will be kind of skewed because it's based on kind of what you might have been taught or read. But if you get all the full information and like the facts, like the factual information, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like then you'll have a way better like understanding as far as like the slavery and really like the impact that it's had globally, not necessarily where it, like he said, localized in just one country, like as far as like all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess when you think about like the reparations part, like of like what he was actually just explaining, I feel like, you know, if that were the case, then like you said, every race would be paying back reparations for you know, all like the ancestors before. You know what I mean? Like everybody would be a part of that. It wouldn't just be black people or just Americans or just Europeans or just, you know what I mean? It would be everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. The foreign people come in, they haven't had generations of being steeped in the welfare state vision, the vision of grievances, victimology, and resentments, the idea that there are enemies out there dedicated to keeping you down. That's the message that's been pumped into the head of the white lower class in Britain. And that's the image that's been pumped into the black low-income people in the United States. And the results are the same in both cases.
But the thing I try to explain to a person is, think of it more like golf. Don't think of it as privilege, then think of it like a handicap, right? In golf, they acknowledge that you are in a position where you need so many advantages to be competitive in the game.
Is that we?
Yeah, I like what Trevor Noah touched on right there.
I mean, but I think, you know, what he's saying, I feel like it is like an even playing field when you want to talk about like what slavery is, like when you listen to what Thomas Sowell is saying. But at the same time, I also feel like, you know, he's pointing out more so like, again, just like, you know, the African Americans of like the slavery part of it, how it still affects them more so today and more so now and more so in the present than I think. Is that kind of like what the argument is? Because he's talking about, they're talking about the same thing, but then Trevor Noah is talking about like how I think he's talking more so about how it affects, you know, black people, the African American race.
Yeah, because even like
particularly,
even like the last comment that he was making right there in regards to just
like why it's so much more heavier.
Yeah, in regards to like the struggle.
Yeah, in terms of like weighted, you know what I mean? Like why it's so, but it's just like, okay, but then when you listen to Simons, he's like, no, that's everybody. Like everybody has that struggle. Everybody's been through that fight. You know what I mean? And so it's just what's being highlighted, like what you're saying.
Exactly, and sometimes it's more of like a psychological battle than anything, because like you said, what's been injected into the minds of the lower income class, whether black or white, is that, you know, somebody else is kind of like have the power over you or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
Where you need so many advantages to be competitive in the game.
Is that we ought not to be doing this?
You know, there are various laws and policies that benefit one group at the expense of another. But I think affirmative action has the distinction of being one that it harms everybody, though in different ways. And so there's a lot of evidence that there are black kids who have all the qualifications to be successes in college, who nevertheless are failures because they are systematically mismatched with institutions whose standards they don't meet, even though they may meet the standards of 80 or 90% of the colleges in America. I remember first aware of this when I was teaching at Cornell, and I found that half the black students at Cornell were on some kind of academic probation. And so I went over to the administration building and looked up the SATs of these students. The average black student at Cornell at that time scored at the 75th percentile.
Which is pretty darn good.
Yes. And so that means that in most colleges in this country, they would have no trouble, and many of them would be on the dean's list. But at Cornell, the average liberal arts student at that time was in the 99th percentile. And when you're teaching the students like that, you teach at a pace that most people of any race cannot keep up with. And it was always complained that I was assigning all kinds of reading, but heck, you know, I'm teaching kids who are in the top 1%. They can keep up with the reading that I'm assigning.
So Cornell was taking very talented black kids and spending 4 years teaching them to feel inadequate.
Yes, and succeeding at that.
Right? So what they say is you have a handicap of 15, so that means like you're going to be hitting from this tee and you get more chances to get the ball in because we understand the position you're in. And if you're a black person in America, from slavery, from day one.
Pondering all this, I noticed something, a column that you wrote, this is a couple of years ago, in which you rebutted Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times. And Kristof had ascribed the gaps between African Americans and whites in America, gaps in wealth, gaps in educational achievement, the usual gaps, to, and this is a quotation from Kristof, to the lingering effects of slavery, close quote.
Oh, yes.
And here's Tom Sowell, quote, if we wanted to be serious about evidence, we might compare where blacks stood 100 years after the end of slavery with where they stood after 30 years of the liberal welfare state. In other words, we could compare hard evidence on the legacy of slavery with hard evidence on the legacy of liberals, close quote. And
the number of injustices that have held black people back in America amount to an insurmountable, like you
I think that last little quote that he was saying right here in regards to, like, you know, the evidence in regards to just slavery and 30 years of the liberal welfare state is because, you know, in like 1960, like you can even look at it, there is hard evidence saying that, like even like as far as like the black family, like black families, like there was more of children that were born with, you know, a mother and a father in the 60s more than there are now. And a lot of it has to do with like the liberal welfare state. You know, after like the welfare and all that stuff was implemented. So, I mean, there is evidence. You know, you just have to, like he said, he's big on facts. So I mean, it has a lot to do with like facts and just seeing what it is for what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the legacy of liberals, close quote. And
The number of injustices that have held black people back in America amount to an insurmountable, like you look at black people's freedom, you look at black people's land, just land alone. The amount of wealth you can acquire over time if you own land is exponential, because you have the land, you have the fact that you can borrow based on the land, you have the fact that you can use the money that you have borrowed to grow more wealth, you can use it to grow your family's wealth. Just taking that away from black people alone.
right. And also, if you think you've been done, if you think you've been wronged, your recourse might also be more likely to politics, to try to redress this whole redistribution,
Yes. Oh, yes.
rather than hit the books, acquire the skills, get the job.
But the other thing too, one of the my favorite statistic in there is that the poverty rate among blacks as a whole is 22%. Among whites as a whole is 11%, and among black married couples is 7.5%.
So
And it's been and black married couples have never had a poverty rate as high as 10% in any year since 1994.
all right.
Wow.
So
So they're not doing that bad. 7% of black couples. That's. I mean, I don't know if that's a lot. If that's
Yes.
it doesn't sound like a big number to me.
Yeah,
Like,
he said 7.5. He said it's never been over 10%. So, it's in the numbers. It's telling you, you know. So I think a lot of it sometimes has to be based on what, you know, the media may inject into society to make you believe. But I mean, like you said, if you just really peel back the numbers and look at it.
So is what Trevor Noah is saying is like, because everything that Thomas Sowell is saying in versus what Trevor Noah is saying is they're contradicting each other almost. It's like he's saying one thing, but then Thomas is saying something
Right.
different,
Yeah,
like in regards to those statements, that he's saying, that he's making.
And me, I'm just liking the fact that, you know, a lot of it is fact based. You know, everything that I'm hearing right now, that I'm getting right now, and that's the thing that I was saying a minute ago is.
So what is he basing off of his? What is he basing off? What is
I
Trevor Noah
feel like
basing
some
his
of it. I think
statements
some of it
off
is more like opinion based because, like I said, Thomas Sowell, he's giving like hard evidence. You know, hard evidence.
Okay.
94.
all right. So to the cry, what is to be done? Tom Sowell answers:
It's been done.
get
but
an education, get married, have kids after you get married. That's sort of the answer, right?
Well, yes, and the things that work for other people tend to work pretty generally.
All right.
Is crippling them. And so you combine
It works for everybody. Like what works for white people work for black people.
Yeah.
What works for black people works for every other race. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Oh.
Based on a lifestyle construct, how you live your life.
And how you okay.
Tend to work pretty generally.
All right.
is crippling them. And so you combine that with slavery, and then you look at Jim Crow laws. You didn't let black people in America live in the areas that they wanted to live in. They couldn't get loans from the banks that they wanted to get loans from. And then on top of that, when they started getting the loans from American banks were found to be giving them higher interest rates when in fact they were the same risk as many of the other races that they were giving loans to.
Oh, well, I know that's not the case now. I know that's not the case now.
It's definitely not the case now. No.
I know that's not the case now.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, and this last comment that he just made, it did seem like it was just like almost like a blanketed statement. You know, you couldn't really see where the fact in it is, because you can't sit here and say that that's a proven fact that they intentionally did that to every single black person. So you can't say that it's just a blanketed statement that he made.
Is it
right
though?
here?
Because it does sound. I mean, okay. It sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So I'm just curious to know where he got his facts from. It could have been what he read, how he understood something to be. I don't know. I can't.
Even like the housing and things of that nature, there were things done in regards to like zoning, in regards to like based on where you live, where you were like zoned out of certain places, and then like banks use that to give loans to certain demographics to a degree. But what he's saying right here, is just a complete like blanketed statement, though.
Okay, but I'm just saying, is there a possibility that he probably read or got his information from somewhere else? Where, that's the misunderstanding amongst people in general already, is that they understand it to be something else from somewhere else because they read it somewhere else. Like it didn't come from Thomas. You know what I mean? It came from some other man. You know what I mean?
Right, and it's just it's all based on what you really truly believe in as far as like your core beliefs. Because Trevor Noah, he comes from a completely different place than where Thomas Sowell would have came from.
Yeah.
Like especially as far as like walk of life too, because Thomas Sowell, like I said, he went through like Jim Crow and the civil rights movement and all that. So he's seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
Straits when in fact they were the same risk as many of the other races that they were giving loans to. So when you combine all of those things, I think it's safe to say that black Americans have a conversation that they need to be having with the United States. Doesn't involve me, doesn't involve white people, it's like, yo, American government, meet the black people. That's it. Have that conversation.
In terms of political leaders, all the incentives politically are for black leaders to blame all problems in the black community on the larger society. And that enables them to take on the role of being the defender of the black community against enemies, which in turn creates the situation in which many blacks don't feel that anything that they do is going to help themselves unless it's done politically as a group. That there's no point. I mean, why would you, if you believe what they say, why would you want to knock yourself out in school knowing that the man is not going to let you get anywhere? Well, one of the most pathetic things I heard in recent years was a young black man saying that at one point he thought he would join the Air Force and become a pilot. And then he says he realized that the white man is not going to let a black man become a pilot. And he was saying this decades after the Tennessee Airmen had established their reputation in combat in Europe. But the hopelessness is one of the big products of the race industry. That you have no chance. I remember giving a talk at Marquette, and at the end of the talk, among the questions that was asked, a young black man got up and he said, even though I am graduating from Marquette University, what hope is there for me? And having gone through college when I was in the 50s, I don't remember any blacks saying that in the 1950s, when there was a lot more obstacles to overcome than there were when this guy is graduating from Marquette. But you have to produce that kind of feeling in order to serve the interests of those in the race industry.
Wow.
Somewhere, watching this
That's
interview,
interesting.
there's a young Thomas Sowell. There's an African American who's smart and wants to do something with his life. It seems to me we've already got one piece of advice you'd offer to him is stay away from the races industry. Stay away from the race hustlers. What advice would you give a young Thomas Sowell? How do you make something of yourself as an African American in America today?
The way anybody else would. You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for.
All right.
Bam.
You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for. Wow.
That's a very simple statement right there.
That's about as and that's kind of what I was saying before. It's just like
That's
and we said like part of the problem is like people having hopelessness, like just already having it in their mindset that I can't be go to school, get a degree in college, do everything right and be successful in life because I already have this disadvantage because of my race.
Right.
And so you go in with the mindset of thinking that I got to work harder, I got to do things differently, I got to work twice as hard to get half as much as someone that's not like me, because that's the mindset you already have. And I feel like part of the problem to that is that you know, I do agree with that statement. I'm just like, you know, I feel like in order for you to be successful in anything that you do, you have to set yourself up in a path, in a direction that you feel is worthy enough to lead you in that direction. And if you're not taking those steps and making those goals and setting those boundaries to set yourself up for that, you will fail. You don't have a plan. You don't have a plan B. You don't have any expectation for what it is that you're trying to accomplish or achieve in life. And part of that problem is that if you don't set yourself up for that and follow your own goals, follow your own paths, have your own determination, your own dreams, your own inspiration, your own aspirations, you won't be able to follow that. You know what I mean? Because it will block your blessings. It will block you from being able to, if you don't, you know what I mean? It's just that simple. If you have the wrong mindset, it's just like, you know how they tell us back in the day, it's just like, if it is to be, it is up to me. Like, you gotta, hey, I mean, it's just, it goes to that.
The last statement that he made is very, very, like I say, it's very, very just laid out to you right there. That's all you have to do right there.
Yeah.
It's that simple, but like you say, it has a lot to do with like mindset. It has to do with what's been injected into the minds of like certain generations.
Yeah.
And not just that, but like you said, where does that come from, where someone can go to get a degree and be at their graduation still feeling that hopelessness?
Yeah.
Like that has to come from
the doubt,
somewhere within, something that's been injected to you. And sometimes that might have, and I feel like that has been injected into like black culture to a degree.
Yeah, to some degree.
From a multitude of areas. And
but whose fault is that though?
It's come from like a lot of different people. It's come from like leaders in the black party, like leaders that's actually that have, I guess, perpetuated that hopelessness into the black community.
Yeah.
It's come from like media, and then not just that, but it just comes from that individual thinking that and feeling that. Yeah. Because like you said, it comes to like self-empowerment. You have to really self-empower yourself to do these things. Just like Thomas Sowell said, it's all fact-based. If you do this, and this, you go and obtain this, and this, you know, this is what the success will be. Like he just said, go get married. Don't get married till you're 35. Don't have kids till you're 35. Like, go get education. Set yourself up. Right. And, you know. Set yourself up for success. And one of those things, like, you know, like, because we were having a conversation with one of our friends a while back, remember? And she said, you know, I wanted to be a manager, and this other person wasn't gonna let her do it. And she is actually like a Hispanic, you know, and she's like, I wasn't gonna let anybody tell me what I could and couldn't do in my career. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's the same thing for your life plan. I wasn't gonna let anybody stop me from doing what I wanted to do. Simple and plain, just like that. And she accomplished it, and she's doing great now. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a perfect way to put it. It has a lot to do with it. This was a really good piece for us to like check out and to listen to, so you can really get an understanding between both opposing arguments between Thomas Sowell and Trevor Noah. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely love what Thomas Sowell says in regards to, like I said, the success part. Yeah. Definitely. Agree. So hey, if y'all enjoyed this video, drop your comments. Let us know what you think about this down below in the comment section as well. What are your thoughts? I'm just curious to hear everybody else's and see everybody else's response. So if y'all enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos from Asia and BJ. And if ain't nobody else told you, I love you. And we're going to see y'all in the next video, y'all. Bye, y'all.
It ain't worth much, but it's just what